Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't be surprised if the WNBA is next on his list. Yep. Don't be surprised.
The FBI doesn't usually wander into the world of basketball. When they do, something bigger than a missed call is at play. At first, it started quietly. Just whispers. Agents sniffing around, gathering documents, and flipping through reports that led them straight to the heart of the WNBA. And then, the whispers became questions. Why were some of the season's biggest games ending in controversy? Why did the league's brightest new star, Caitlyn Clark, seem to be taking harder hits than anyone else, while referees swallowed their whistles? Everyone had noticed it. The fans, the players, even commentators. Those moments when millions watching at home said the same thing. Wait, how is that not a foul? Now, we finally have an answer. Referees. Real WNBA officials with years of experience have stepped forward and testified under oath that the league was influencing how certain games were being called. And according to them, that direction came straight from one office, Cathy Engelbert's. This isn't speculation anymore. This is testimony, sworn and recorded, with the FBI now looking directly into the heart of professional women's basketball. The player caught in the middle of it all is none other than Caitlyn Clark, the league's biggest draw, the rookie sensation filling arenas, setting records, and bringing millions of new eyes to the sport. And yet, somehow, she's been taking the hardest hits. Without protection, after recent NBA gambling scandals, sports commentator Stephen A. Smith warned, if the FBI's looking into the NBA, don't be surprised if the WNBA is next. He said it casually, but the words landed like a prediction. Now, that prediction is reality. This isn't about bad officiating anymore. It's about influence, it's about power, and it's about what happens when the image of a league becomes more important than the integrity of the game itself. When the first news broke, it didn't feel like a leak. It felt like an explosion. 3 referees, each with years of experience, stepped forward and submitted sworn statements pointing not at players, not at coaches, but upward toward league leadership. They described meetings that didn't sound like rule clarifications. They described expectations that didn't sound like fairness. They described subtle nudges that weren't subtle at all. According to them, the message from above was clear. Don't call the game fairly. Don't protect every player equally. Make sure the league looks competitive. One referee's words, now central to the investigation, cut through the noise. Too much attention on one player disrupts the league's image. Everyone knows who that refers to. These weren't emotional rants after a tough game. They were calm, professional testimonies given under the weight of legal consequence. And because they were given under oath, the FBI is taking them seriously. This has placed the WNBA in the most dangerous position in its history. Not a PR problem, not a backlash from fans, a legitimacy crisis. The league that has worked for decades to grow, to earn its respect, and to build an audience now finds itself under federal scrutiny, not for what happens off the court, but for what might be happening on it. And at the center of it all is Caitlyn Clark, the one person the WNBA should have been protecting the most. So why would the league hold back? The player who's lifting it to new heights? The referees say it wasn't personal. It was strategic. The league didn't want the WNBA to revolve around one person, one team, one headline. They wanted balance, parity, equality across the board. But there's a thin line between balance and manipulation. And if the FBI confirms these statements, that line has been crossed. Basketball isn't supposed to be controlled from the top down. The story of greatness writes itself. It doesn't need to be edited by executives. When Caitlyn Clark arrived, she didn't just play, she transformed the air around the game. Before her, arenas were half full, fans were loyal but few, and attention was steady but modest. Then she stepped onto a WNBA court, And everything changed. Tickets that once cost $15 now sold for hundreds. Everywhere she went, arenas sold out. People who had never watched women's basketball suddenly cared. Caitlyn Clark was more than a rookie. She was a phenomenon, but not everyone celebrated her rise. Veteran players felt overshadowed. Coaches grew uncomfortable with the shifting spotlight. And leadership, according to the referee's statements, became anxious. Caitlyn Clark didn't rise through the traditional WNBA ladder. She skipped it. She was a comet blazing past the system. And that, for some in power, was terrifying. Instead of celebrating her momentum, league leadership allegedly tried to manage it. Slow it down, blend it, control it. But greatness doesn't ask for permission. Rather than criticizing her publicly, the manipulation allegedly came through officiating. A quiet message sent through whistles, or the lack of them. A few fewer calls. A little more contact. A simple but clear directive. Don't let her stand too far above everyone. Else, that's how you control a narrative without saying a word. The result was visible. To anyone paying attention, the hits Caitlyn Clark took weren't standard defense. They were body checks, forearms, collisions that made crowds gasp. Physical play is part of basketball, but this wasn't physicality. This was permission. Now, referees say they were told to let it play when it came to defending Clark, to avoid stopping the game too often, to keep the flow. But those instructions weren't applied equally across the league. Only Caitlyn Clark played under those rules, and that's where everything changes. Because every athlete, in every sport, trusts one thing above all else: that officials will keep the game safe. When that trust is broken, everything crumbles. Careers, health, integrity. Meanwhile, Cathy Engelbert sat courtside, smiling, calm, collected, as if none of it was happening. The message was silent but clear. The league's image matters more than the protection of its brightest star. But that's not leadership. That's control. A league doesn't grow by silencing its greatness. It grows by protecting it. The referee's testimonies repeated one phrase that has become the haunting echo of this entire investigation. Protect the league image. Not protect players. Not protect fairness. Protect the image. For decades, the WNBA has prided itself on parity. Every team competitive, every matchup close, every fan with hope. But parity isn't supposed to be engineered. It's supposed to emerge naturally from talent, coaching, and competition. When it's manipulated, it's no longer sport, it's theater. The NBA had Jordan. The NFL had Brady. Tennis had Serena. Soccer had Messi. Every sport has that one transcendent player who lifts it to a new level. The WNBA finally had Caitlyn Clark. But instead of embracing that, leadership allegedly tried to dilute it, to slow her rise, to spread the spotlight, to make sure the WNBA didn't become the Caitlyn Clark League. That decision, if true, didn't just hurt her. It jeopardized the credibility of the entire organization. Greatness doesn't need to be equalized. It needs to be elevated. And when the system punishes its brightest light, it stops being about basketball and starts being about control. As this investigation unfolds, one thing is clear. The WNBA's biggest threat isn't competition, it's credibility. The FBI's involvement means this has moved beyond league politics. It's now about potential federal violations, manipulation of competition, integrity interference, and possible fraud if outcomes were influenced for image control. Investigators are looking into key questions. Did league officials give direct instructions to referees? Were games managed to ensure balance? And most importantly, was Caitlyn Clark targeted to protect the league's brand? If any of those answers are yes, this story becomes bigger than sports. Because once the line between fair competition and controlled entertainment is crossed, the game itself loses meaning. The announcement hit like an earthquake. The WNBA season was canceled. Within hours, headlines screamed chaos, fans were stunned, and behind the scenes, the FBI moved in. What started as rumors of financial trouble quickly exploded into a full-scale federal investigation. According to insiders, the FBI discovered severe operational inconsistencies, missing funds, falsified reports, and misleading financial projections tied to sponsorships and development programs. It wasn't just bad management, it was the collapse of trust. For players, this was personal. Some had uprooted families, others had just signed new deals. Overnight, everything vanished. One athlete tearfully said on live TV, "We gave our lives to this league, and now it's gone." The heartbreak was real, but beneath the anger was solidarity. The women stood together, demanding answers. Weeks later, the FBI released its findings. Years of mismanagement and neglected oversight. Millions in league funds had been redirected without proper authorization. An agent told reporters, "This wasn't one bad call. It was a system that stopped asking questions." At the center of the storm stood Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. For 2 weeks, she stayed silent. Then, appearing in front of cameras, she said quietly, "I take full responsibility. My decisions caused pain, confusion, and loss. I never meant to deceive, but intentions aren't enough when trust is broken." Her words drew mixed reactions. Some called it accountability. Others called it spin. How could a former Deloitte CEO, famous for her precision, let such chaos unfold? Was this negligence, or was something deeper hidden beneath the surface? The ripple effect was devastating. Coaches, trainers, vendors, thousands suddenly jobless. Young fans who idolized their heroes watched them grieve on TV. A viral quote from one player captured it all. "This isn't just about basketball. It's about believing that when you give everything to a system, it won't fail you." Talk shows and podcasts dissect every moment. Some sponsors quietly pulled out, others demanded refunds. Even the NBA issued a statement urging transparency and accountability. The message was clear. The WNBA would need to rebuild from the ground up. Months later, the investigation concluded. Engelbert faced no criminal charges, but the Department of Justice blamed major leadership and financial failures. A new oversight committee was formed, including former players and independent auditors, to rebuild the league's credibility. Behind the scenes, whispers grew about a WNBA rebuild initiative backed by investors and former stars. The league's heart hadn't stopped beating. It was just waiting to be. Revived, Cathy Engelbert quietly stepped back from public life. Some say she's working on a memoir to tell her side of the story. Whether it ever gets published is unclear, but her legacy is permanently split. Part trailblazer, part cautionary tale. Months later, former players gathered for a charity event. They didn't talk about contracts or scandals. They talked about resilience. One veteran said through tears, "They can cancel the season, but they can't cancel who we are." Basketball isn't a brand, it's a heartbeat. The crowd stood, applauding, crying, believing again. The WNBA's fall became more than a sports story. It became a symbol of how fragile trust can be and how redemption begins with truth. As one writer put it, this isn't the end of women's basketball. It's the painful lesson that will make the next era stronger. The league may be silent now, but somewhere, a young girl still practices her jump shot, dreaming of the day she'll wear that jersey again, not as part of a broken system, but as the face of a new beginning. Because in the end, the game never dies, it evolves.